Good evening, guys. All right, Tyler, I am making this video for you guys. I've been working with a few members in the group last couple days, weeks, and you're all seeming to be a little confused about the KPLs and the KPL bot themselves. So I'm going to do a quick video. The intention is to make a quick video to explain the basic concept of what KPL strategy was in the original stages, and then do a really short explanation of how to set it up for just again the basics sides of this strategy. There are so many different uses for it, but the premise is you need to identify key levels and then a range around those key levels to take entries from. So you identify the key levels that you want to trade high above or short below. Okay, so I have a day here, relatively unique day, where we have our KPL indicator that provides key levels as well. And with Confluence, you can use these in your strategies. For our example today, we're just going to use the KPLs as they are. Okay, so you can see with the high, we have our KPL 1 and all the way down to the low near our KPL 4. So we're going to trade this like hindsight, like we knew this was going to happen kind of a thing, just to set it up so you can see, but we can implement this across many different trades. So the idea is you would want to trade after the move goes up. You want to trade short from KPL 1 all the way down to KPL 4 or from KPL 4 up. So you would need to identify a buffer zone. A good buffer zone size we used to use and sometimes still do was about 16 points. So if you set up a buffer zone around your KPL, it would look something like this. Okay, boom. It's probably a little bit bigger than 16 points, but basically you had 8 points to the downside, 8 points to the top side. When price comes up, it would touch your buffer zone, it would enter short. You would start out negative a little bit, but then it would come down and you'd hit your target profit wherever you decided to identify it, whether it was a point value or a key level value or you manually exited. Okay, then you could set up one or you could set up two KPLs, where you would then, if you used your 1 and your 4, you would have the same kind of situation here, where your KPL down here, if you traded this and you took your profit somewhere down along the way, then you would touch the buffer on your bottom, you get an enter long, and you would then trade it up. Obviously, it's very hard to predict these things explicitly, but this unique day, that kind of a trade plan would have worked. Okay, so that's just generically explaining it. How would we set that trade up? Okay, we would add this strategy. We can add it straight to the chart, or we can add it into our strategies tab. For this example, I'm going to show you how to add it straight to the chart. So what you would do is you would right click on your chart, add a strategy. Okay, I know this is a little hard to see, so I'm going to transition to a different scene so you can see it a little more clearly. Bring this guy up here. All right, KPL1G. Double click that. That gets into the configuration section, so that is being applied directly to your chart. Okay. Then, again, simple setups. We're going to ignore most of the settings for now and just get your trade situation being long above, short below. So, for a live test or a live trade, you need to have it selected to live trade, and you have to have back testing not selected. Okay. Then the rest of this stuff can stay off and blank or zeroed out. We're going to scroll down to filter weights. No. Make sure all these are still checked off, just like this. We'll come all the way down to right here, closed wins. First thing you're going to want to do is set that to the number of wins you want to get off of a KPL. So most of the time for my trades or simple trades, we just set this to 1. You want to get 1 clean win and that's it. Or you want to set up your risk to reward to where if you take a stop or two, when it breaks out, you catch a win that's worth more than that. So use level stop trades, you're going to turn that on, and then you're going to set the amount of times you want to try to trade off of your KPLs. 3 is a number that can be used. 5's kind of a max that I would go because you start getting a little bit too many losses and you can't get a clean win out of that. So you have to do your own back testing, but We'll start with 3 for now. Then unit sizes. Okay, you have 5 different units, which means you can have 5 different targets. So each if anything in the size, that's a contract size. So if you put 1 here and 1 here, that would be 2 contract sizes. And then the target 1, value 1, style 1 is the criteria for taking profit for this contract. Same thing, the bit target 2, value 2, style 2 would be the criteria for taking a profit for this contract. If you wanted to add more size, you can change these values up to as many as you want. But for our simple example, we're going to set this to 1, and we're going to set the rest of these to 0. If you set these to 0, then obviously they will have no contract sizes, and those settings do not matter. Okay. Target. Ticks is the simplest one. Bypassed will turn it off so it doesn't have a target. Level we'll explain later. KPL would be to the other KPL. And these other items we'll explain in later videos. For now, we're going to settle on ticks. Okay. For an ES trade or an MES trade, let's keep it simple. And we're going to go for 20 points. Okay. So 20 points is going to be 80 ticks. That's 4 times 20, 80. Gets you 20 ticks or 80 ticks or 20 points. So that sets up our target for this trade. Okay. And we're going to scroll past the rest of these units. We're going to ignore the custom open. We don't need to worry about that for now. The next thing that's important is your inputs, your upper input and your lower input. Okay. We said that we wanted to trade KPL1 and KPL1 and KPL2. So we need to put in 642125 for KPL1 and 6332.25 for KPL4. Okay. Let's go back up here. So, like we said, our upper input is the higher value. So we're going to put in 6421.25. Okay. And then for the lower input, we're going to put in the lower KPL, 6332.25. All right. Those are the upper and the lower inputs. Now, you need to use the upper level mode, and you want to input key price. Input key price looks to the user input above. If you were to go to select key price, it looks at whatever's below it, down in here, which you can set to these predetermined levels that are built into the code. For now, we're using user-defined input, so put to input key price, okay? Input key price. Next thing we need to do is activate the buffer zone edges. So the buffer zone we're going to end up putting on this is going to be a 16-point buffer. We'll get how to set that in a minute, but that means at the top of the buffer, you enter long. At the bottom of the buffer, you enter short. So that's what these check boxes is. Checking it activates the top, the buy of the buffer, or the bottom, the sell of the buffer. If these are not checked, it will not take the trade. And you have these settings for both KPLs, so you can set these to trade one direction if you would like to. For our purpose right now, we're just going to check them both. Okay, and then that's got now your entry conditions set here, and previously in the units we set our exit conditions. So we have both our entry and our exit set, except for the buffer zone. We now need to set our buffer zone, or else it will be an odd size at whatever the default setting is here. Like we said, we wanted to do a 16-point buffer for our example. So you need to do 16 points times 4, which is the amount of ticks. So that gets you 64 ticks, which creates your 16-point buffer. 8 points above the KPL and 8 points below the KPL is your entry levels. Okay. So now we've set up all the criteria of the KPLs themselves on our chart with this example. And we're going to scroll down past these. Again, we'll explain this in later videos. For now, just leave them unchecked. For our purposes, we can draw the channel and we can draw the KPL, and so they look different for you. I'm going to change the KPL color to the pretty cyan. KPL color, pretty cyan. So we will have golden buffer channels and a cyan KPL, which on our chart is just going to blend into our indicator that's already on the chart. Okay. The rest of these settings don't fully matter. We'll turn on a time clock just for your being able to set this up with me, and we'll do this in if it was Central Time, it would be 5 p.m., but because I'm actually recording on a Pacific Coast time, I'm going to make these Pacific times for the start of Globex and the end of the cash close, the regular trading hours for stock time. Okay, so that's your time clock for that. Your close time, you can set that just like I have it here if you would like to. That's technically 1,300 hours for Pacific time. That would be 1,500 hours for Central time. And then we have to set our account we want it to trade on. Sim is fine for me for right now. Identify that we are in the right input series. Because we are doing it on our chart, it automatically does it. If we did it from the control tab or the strategies tab, you would have to set this yourself. Okay, that is all the critical settings. So now once we get that set up, we can go back to our chart here and let the pull up a control tab. Now in our strategies tab, what we created, that strategy is here. I'm sorry, this is hard to read, but that is the strategy that we just made. And if we go ahead and activate it, what it's going to do now is it'll print this calculating at the top and all this gibberish. If you wanted to get rid of this, you just delete the label inside the settings of the strategy. I didn't do that. So if you get confused, go ahead and ask me later. But once that calculates, you get your channel drawn on the chart here and channel drawn on the chart here. So if this had been active that day, you would have got the entry right here, moved down to our 20-point target, and because we had one closed win, I believe this wouldn't have traded, but we can test that real quick actually. This video is going to get just a touch longer while I explain that. Okay, since we have that, we're going to pull up our strategies real quick, and we're going to uncheck the trade live, and we're going to check the back zone. We moved down, took our 20-point profit, 20-point profit, and the bot was done for the day because we had set that one closed win. If you had set it to 2, you would have actually got another entry. No, you wouldn't. You would have got the second entry down at the bottom buffer because we moved down to the bottom. Okay. And then, yeah, the last thing I'll do for this simple explanation is, like I said, to get rid of the gibberish on the chart, you do your settings. Put this on the other screen for you. Go to your settings, scroll all the way down to the bottom. You find the label, and just go ahead and delete the label. Hit OK. And then when you activate your strategy, it'll do the calculating thing real quick. But then once it plots, all that gibberish is off your chart. So again, very simple explanation. There is a lot more ways to use this tool, and there's a lot more cool functionality. But for those getting started, this is the very simple way that you guys can go ahead and get it set up. So hope this helped you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video.